Greetings Exiles, I'm Raziel, and today I'm just going to update you on my progress in synthesis and my progress with the Herald of Agony Champion, and then also just talk about some of my plans for the future. So first up, let me just go over what the gear on my synthesis Herald of Agony Champion looks like now. Starting with my gloves, I've managed to get my hands on some just faster attacks, life and resists gloves. This is to socket my barrage, of course. My belt is just a Stygian Vice with some life and resists, and a jewel with some life and resists. My amulet is still pretty much the same as the last video, just life and resists. My chest is a 6-linked Coming Calamity. This allows us to reserve 45% of our mana with Herald of Agony, regardless of how many links it has, which comes in quite handy when it has 6 links. It also boosts the level of Herald of Agony by 2 levels, which is extremely important for Herald of Agony. The more levels Herald of Agony has, the more damage it does. Quite substantially more damage. My rings are just minus mana cost and life. These desperately need to be upgraded, but I haven't really tried to upgrade my gear much since I'm doing everything just fine at the moment, and when I hit a roadblock I usually upgrade gear. And with that said, we come to our helm, which is a helm I got at around level 47 and have been wearing ever since. Life and resists. Our boots are some resists, life and 30% movement speed. The quiver is pretty nice with chance to blind enemies on hit, minion movement speed and life. It's also a fire arrow quiver to proc our elemental equilibrium without having to roll a jewel or buy a jewel or anything like that. Right now this was the most convenient option for me. And lastly we have a Quill Rain. This pretty much just lets us attack really fast, so it makes us build our virulent stacks very quickly. Now let's go over the links, starting with the most important, the Herald of Agony, which is currently linked with damage on full life because the Herald of Agony is always on full life. Pierce, because clearing without a Pierce gem is kind of a pain, so we use Pierce. For something like the Uber Elder or the Shaper, you could swap this with Vicious Projectiles if you wished. Then we have minion damage. I think almost any minion skill that's dealing damage will eventually end up with a minion damage support in there somewhere. Next we're using Vile Toxins. Since it takes me so quick to apply 10 poison stacks, I like Vile Toxins. Especially if you can get a level 21 Vile Toxins, because that gives us about 50% more damage. This gives us 45% more damage at 9 poison stacks. And lastly, Physical to Lightning. This interacts really well with our elemental equilibrium, converting the remainder of the physical damage from the Herald of Agony into lightning damage, and then also adding some lightning damage on top of that, as well as increasing physical and lightning damage to some extent. Next we go over our barrage and its current setup. So our barrage has been kept at a low level to reduce its mana cost, and it's obviously linked with faster attacks from the gloves to boost its attack speed. Pierce, so that we can spread our elemental equilibrium behind the main targets. Poison, because we have to poison for virulent stacks. And then life gain on hit. Now if you could get poison and faster attacks on your gloves normally, then you would replace poison with Withering Touch, just to boost the chaos damage that's dealt by the Herald of Agony. Socketed in our helm we have our Stone Golem for some extra regen, and we also have our cast when damage taken Immortal Call setup, which consists of Immortal Call, cast when damage taken, and increased duration. In our boots, we have our blink arrow, as well as our hatred combination, which is hatred, linked with generosity, which boosts the effectiveness of our hatred, while also making sure that it doesn't affect us and that we can apply our elemental equilibrium much easier. And then enlighten, just so that we have a little bit of extra mana. Lastly, in our bow, we have convocation, which would eventually be linked with enhance, and then spirit offering, linked with increased duration, and desecrate, linked with spell cascade. Now the spirit offering increased duration makes sense because we want it to last as long as possible. Since we don't have a lot of cast speed, it's nice to have it last really long instead. And as far as desecrate goes, having spell cascade here is really nice because this allows desecrate to desecrate 3 sets of corpses, meaning that we always get the maximum amount of corpses for our spirit offering. So that's pretty much the gear and the links. Next, I'd just like to mention 2 important stats which most people are looking at in builds, and that is our life total is currently 6,189. Could probably get that to 7,000 with 1 or 2 more levels and a few more upgrades, specifically rings and some of my jewels, as well as that helm. And as for damage, my current DPS against the Shaper with full virulence stacks and full poison stacks on the Shaper is just under 1 million. And let's just go over my Ascendancy, which I did before, so I'm just going to do it quickly. We take Conqueror and Worthy Foe, as these make it so that we have more reduced damage taken and some life regen, as well as having a lot more damage for a Herald of Agony by way of making it so that he can't miss his attacks, and the enemies take 20% increased damage. And then we have Unstoppable Hero and Fortitude, which basically gives us Fortify even though we use a bow, and also makes it so that we have some armor and evasion rating, and that we can't be stunned while we have Fortify. So it's a pretty handy all-in-one defensive node, which is just really cool. I'll just give you guys a brief overview of the main passive tree, which consists mainly of attack speed, resists, life, and minion attack speed. The full passive tree will be available in the path of building in the description. Now that we've discussed my character, I'd like to go over my plans for not only this league but for the upcoming year. Now, I haven't discussed my interest in attending exilecon previously, but I think that now that everything is on track, I would like to say that I am going to be attending exilecon, and if 1 or 2 of you happens to be also attending exilecon, I'd love to meet you guys there. The reason I'll be able to attend exilecon living so far away is because I'll be going to New Zealand to sort of network and look into the possibility of working in New Zealand, because prospects in South Africa for someone like me are very few and far between, and because of that I think it's best to immigrate, hopefully to New Zealand, because New Zealand seems like my kind of place. I'll probably give you guys some updates on how that's going throughout the year. Won't be Path of Exile related, but it will be COD Raziel related. And then, as far as my in-game goes for this league, right now I'm one of the suckers that has this happening. And I've also sort of run out of maps in a manner of speaking, so I will be trying out a different character for a little while before coming back to this one. And that character will be a Queen of the Forest Righteous Fire Trickster, as I've done in previous leagues. The Trickster has received some updates, and there are some new things we can try with Righteous Fire, so I think it's going to be very cool. Anyway, this has been an update on the life of COD Raziel, COD Raziel's Herald of Agony Champion, and other stuff COD Raziel plans to do in Synthesis League. So I'd like to thank you for watching, and good luck, and stay juicy.